The notification sound on my phone was innocuous enough. Just a soft ping while I was folding laundry on a quiet Sunday afternoon. I almost ignored it. Almost. My name is Amber, and that single ping changed everything. The group chat name made my stomach drop. Backup daughter. I stared at my phone screen, blinking hard, certain I was misreading. But there it was, clear as day. The chat included my mother Marissa, my sister Emily, my aunt Jordan, and 2 family friends I barely knew. Somehow, I'd been accidentally added. My hand started shaking as I scrolled up through months of messages I was never supposed to see. Marissa. Emily's interview went perfectly. Thank God we have one daughter who can handle pressure. Jordan. What about Amber? Isn't she doing something with nonprofits? Marissa. Oh, that's just volunteer work, nothing serious. At least she won't embarrass us. She does what she's told. Emily. Mom, you're terrible. But honestly, I'm glad I don't have to worry about competition from my own sister. Marissa. Emily, darling, you were always our first choice. Amber was, well, insurance, in case you ever needed a backup. I dropped the phone like it had burned me. The laundry basket tumbled over, spilling clean clothes across the hardwood floor, but I couldn't move to pick them up. I just sat there, reading those words over and over. Backup daughter. Insurance. She does what she's told. 28 years of feeling like I was never quite enough suddenly made perfect sense. Every time Emily got the bigger bedroom, the better birthday party, the college fund that somehow stretched further for her than it ever did for me. Every time I was asked to step aside so she could shine brighter. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't being sensitive. I was literally their plan B. My phone rang. Mum's contact photo, her perfectly posed headshot from the country club directory, filled the screen. Hello? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Amber, honey, there's been a little mix-up with a group chat. You might have gotten added by accident? I saw it. The words came out flat, emotionless. Silence stretched between us. I could practically hear her calculating, trying to figure out how much damage control she needed to do. Sweetheart, you have to understand, we were just what, Mom? Just talking about how I'm your backup daughter? Just discussing how I do what I'm told like some kind of trained dog? Amber, you're being dramatic. You know we love you. Do you? I stood up, pacing across my living room. Because those messages don't sound like love. They sound like you've been tolerating me my entire life. Another pause. When she spoke again, her voice had shifted to that cool, controlled tone I knew so well. The one that meant the conversation was over whether I wanted it to be or not. You weren't supposed to see that. Not, I'm sorry. Not, we didn't mean it. Not even a weak excuse about being taken out of context. You weren't supposed to see that. The truth, delivered with surgical precision. No regret. No apology. Just annoyance that I'd discovered what they really thought of me. Right, I said quietly. I wasn't supposed to see that my own family has a group chat dedicated to discussing how mediocre I am. Amber! I hung up. The phone immediately started ringing again. Then again. I turned it face down on the coffee table and stared at it buzzing against the wood like an angry wasp. For 28 years, I'd bent myself into whatever shape they needed. The helpful daughter, the one who didn't make waves, the one who cleaned up after family dinners while Emily held court in the living room, the one who smiled and nodded when they forgot to save me a seat at restaurants, when they planned vacations for 3 instead of 4, when they talked about Emily's accomplishments at every gathering while treating my life like background noise. I walked to the window and looked out at the tree-lined street where I'd built a quiet, careful life. A life they knew almost nothing about, because they'd never bothered to ask. The phone stopped buzzing, In the sudden silence, something cold and clear settled in my chest. They didn't know it yet, but that message, that casual, cruel dismissal of my worth, was the reason I'd never be obedient again. They wanted a backup daughter. They were about to find out what happened when the backup stopped showing up. The memories hit me like a freight train that night. I couldn't sleep, so I found myself digging through old photo albums, looking for proof that I wasn't crazy, that it had always been this way. There it was. Christmas morning, 2018. Emily, radiant in a red silk dress, surrounded by perfectly wrapped gifts that cost more than my rent. Me, in the background, wearing a sweater I'd bought myself, holding a gift card to Target. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what happened 3 days later. I'd been dating Rhett for 2 years by then. 2 years of him criticizing everything I did, isolating me from friends, making me feel like I was lucky he even tolerated me. I'd finally worked up the courage to break up with him, and I was a wreck. I can't do this anymore, I'd told my parents, sobbing in their kitchen while Emily was upstairs getting ready for some gala. He makes me feel worthless. He threw a plate at the wall yesterday because I forgot to buy the right kind of bread. Mom barely looked up from her phone. Amber, relationships take work. You can't just run away when things get difficult. This isn't difficult, Mom. This is abuse. Dad shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Now, sweetheart, that's a strong word. He screams at me. He tells me I'm stupid, that I'm lucky to have him because no one else would want me. Well, Mom said, setting down her phone with a sigh. Emily would have handled a man like that differently. She knows how to manage difficult personalities. I stared at her. Manage? Mom, I shouldn't have to manage someone who treats me like garbage. Rhett comes from a good family. His father owns 3 car dealerships. You could do worse. I could also do better. Emily appeared in the doorway then, stunning in a black cocktail dress, her hair perfectly curled. What's all the yelling about? Your sister is having relationship drama, Mom said, like I was a teenager throwing a tantrum instead of a grown woman asking for support. Emily sat down next to me, and for a moment, I thought she might actually help. Amber, honey, what's wrong? Through tears, I explained everything. The emotional manipulation, the way he made me feel small, how I was afraid to leave because he'd convinced me I was nothing without him. Emily listened, nodding sympathetically. Then she said, Have you tried couples therapy? Sometimes men just need help learning how to communicate better. He doesn't need to learn how to communicate better. He needs to stop being abusive. Abuse is such a harsh word, Emily said gently. Maybe he's just stressed about work. You know how men get when they feel pressured to provide? I looked around the table, at Mom scrolling through her phone again, at Dad staring into his coffee cup, at Emily checking her reflection in her compact mirror. So that's it? I should just stay with someone who makes me miserable because he has money and comes from a good family? I'm just saying, Mom said without looking up. You're 26 years old. You can't keep running home every time life gets hard. Emily's never needed this much hand-holding. Emily stood up, smoothing her dress. I really do have to go. Marcus is picking me up in 10 minutes. She squeezed my shoulder. But Amber, maybe try looking at this from Rhett's perspective. Relationships are about compromise. And just like that, she was gone, leaving me sitting there with parents who thought I should compromise my way through emotional abuse. I left that night. Not just their house. I left everything. I broke up with Rhett via text, blocked his number, and bought a plane ticket to Guatemala with the last of my savings. Where are you going? Mom had demanded when I called to tell them. To volunteer with a humanitarian organization. I need to get away from here. Amber, you can't just run away to play in the dirt with poor people because your boyfriend hurt your feelings. Watch me. I hung up and didn't speak to them for 6 months. That humanitarian camp changed my life, not just because I met Andrew there, though that was part of it. But because for the first time in my adult life, I was surrounded by people who valued kindness over status, who measured success by impact rather than income. Andrew was different from anyone I'd ever met. Quiet, thoughtful, genuinely interested in making the world better. When I told him about my family, about Rhett, he just listened. He didn't try to fix me or explain away their behavior. "You deserve better," he said simply. "You deserve people who see your worth." I'd almost forgotten what that felt like. Now, sitting in my living room with that group chat still glowing on my phone, I realized something had shifted. The scared, desperate girl who'd begged her family for support was gone. In her place was someone who'd learned her own value, and they had no idea what was coming. My phone buzzed with a text from Peyton. "Emergency wine night. Your place. 20 minutes. She showed up with 2 bottles of Pinot Grigio and murder in her eyes. "I saw Emily's Instagram story," she said, pushing past me into the kitchen. "Some fancy award ceremony? Let me guess, your family didn't mention it." "They never do." I grabbed wine glasses from the cabinet. "But that's not why you're here." Peyton had been my closest friend since college, the only person who'd witnessed firsthand how my family treated me. She'd also been the one to drive me to the airport when I fled to Guatemala. "Spill," she said, pouring generous glasses. "You sounded weird on the phone." I showed her the group chat. She read in silence, her face growing darker with each message. When she finished, she set the phone down carefully, like it might explode. "I'm going to burn their house down." "Peyton!" "No, I'm serious. I have gasoline in my car. We can do this tonight." Despite everything, I laughed. "We're not committing arson. Fine, but we're doing something. You can't let them get away with this." I took a long sip of wine. "Actually, I've been thinking about that." "Good. What's the plan? Public humiliation? Social media blast? I vote for both." "Nothing like that." I walked to the window, looking out at the quiet street. "You know what's funny? They have no idea who I really am now." "What do you mean?" I turned back to her. "When's the last time any of them asked about my life? Really asked?" Peyton frowned. "I don't know. Ever?" "Exactly. They think I'm still the same broken girl who came crawling home from Guatemala 2 years ago." "But you didn't come crawling home. You came back married to—" She stopped mid-sentence, her eyes widening. "Oh my God, they don't know about Andrew. They know I'm married. They don't know who I married." "Amber." Peyton set down her wine glass. "Please tell me you're not saying what I think you're saying." I pulled out my laptop and opened my email. "Remember that fellowship Emily's been bragging about? The one funding her research on sustainable communications? The one that's supposed to make her career? That's the one." I clicked on a recent email thread. "Look at this." Peyton leaned over my shoulder, reading. Her jaw dropped. "The Gonzalez Foundation is their primary sponsor. 60% of their funding comes from Carlos and Edith's foundation. Has for the past 3 years. Carlos and Edith, your in-laws?" I nodded. "Andrew's parents, who happen to love me like the daughter they never had." Peyton stared at me. "You're on the board. As of 6 months ago, Andrew wanted me to wait until I was emotionally ready to use that position. He was worried I might make decisions based on anger instead of principle. And now?" I closed the laptop. "Now I'm not angry anymore. I'm clear." Peyton was quiet for a long moment. "What are you going to do?" "Nothing dramatic, nothing public. Just stop helping them pretend I don't matter." My phone rang. Andrew's name lit up the screen. "Hey," I answered. "How are you holding up?" His voice was warm, concerned. I'd texted him about the group chat earlier. "Better, actually. Peyton's here. We're strategizing." "Should I be worried?" I smiled. Only if you're planning to treat me like a backup option. Never. The certainty in his voice made my chest tight. I'm flying back tomorrow morning instead of Wednesday. We need to talk about this properly. You don't have to cut your trip short. Amber, you're my wife. When someone hurts you, they hurt me too. I'm coming home. After I hung up, Peyton was staring at me with a strange expression. What? He has no idea, does he? How lucky he is. I'm the lucky one. No. She shook her head. You're both lucky, but him especially. He gets to love someone who's been tested by fire and came out pure gold. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking wine and watching the sun set through my kitchen window. So what's the first move? Peyton finally asked. I pulled up Emily's latest Instagram post, her accepting some communications award, thanking all the generous donors who make this work possible. I think, I said slowly, it's time for the foundation board to review our funding priorities. Peyton grinned. Now we're talking. But quietly, professionally, nothing that can be traced back to personal grievances. You're scary when you're calm like this. Good, I said, raising my wine glass. They should be scared. To the backup daughter, Peyton toasted. To the only daughter left standing, I corrected. We clinked glasses, and I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, not hurt, but something much more dangerous. Purpose. The invitation arrived on cream-colored cardstock, delivered by courier like it was a royal summons. The Santiago family cordially invites you to our annual garden gala, I read aloud to Andrew over breakfast. A celebration of community, philanthropy, and family values. Andrew looked up from his coffee. Are you going? Listen to this part. I flipped the card over. Amber, we'll need you here by 9 a.m. for setup. Wear something appropriate but not too formal. You know how these events work. XOXO, Mom. Setup? Andrew's eyebrows shot up. They want me to serve, not attend. As usual, I set the invitation down. But look at the sponsor list. Andrew scanned the small print at the bottom. The Gonzalez Foundation is listed as a platinum sponsor. $25,000. Your parents have been funding this thing for 3 years. And Emily will be there? She's the keynote speaker. Sustainable communications in the digital age. Very cutting-edge stuff. Andrew was quiet for a moment, stirring his coffee. What are you thinking? I'm thinking it's time for some strategic budget reallocation. That afternoon, I called an emergency board meeting. Carlos and Edith joined via video call from their estate in Napa, along with the other 3 board members. I've been reviewing our community engagement funding, I began, pulling up the presentation I'd worked on all morning. Specifically our support for local events and speaking engagements. The garden gala? Edith asked. She'd always been sharp. Among others. I'm concerned we're not seeing adequate return on investment in terms of actual community impact. Carlos leaned forward on screen. What kind of impact are you looking for? Measurable outcomes. The gala raises money for various causes, but the funds seem to go primarily toward administrative costs and speaker fees rather than direct aid. I clicked to the next slide, showing a breakdown of where the gala's money actually went. I'd done my homework. 60% goes to event costs, 20% to administrative fees. Only 20% reaches actual charitable programs. That's not great, admitted board member Patricia. I'm proposing we redirect our funding to organizations with better transparency and impact metrics. The vote was unanimous. 2 days later, I sent 3 things to the family group chat. The real one, not their secret backup daughter discussion. First, an RSVP marked decline in bold red letters. Second, a screenshot of their backup daughter conversation with the message, "Since I wasn't supposed to see this, I thought I should clarify. I won't be helping with setup anymore. Ever." Third, a press release from the Gonzalez Foundation announcing the strategic reallocation of community engagement funds to organizations with demonstrated impact metrics. My phone started ringing within minutes. "Amber!" Emily's voice was shrill. "What is this press release? The Gonzalez Foundation is pulling funding." "The board made a decision based on impact assessment. It's nothing personal." "Nothing personal? The gala is in 48 hours. I'm supposed to give the keynote." "I'm sure you'll figure something out. You always do." "This is about that stupid group chat, isn't it?" "What group chat?" I kept my voice innocent. "Don't play dumb with me. You're being vindictive and petty." "Emily, I'm on a charitable foundation board. We make funding decisions based on data, not feelings." "Bullshit! You're sabotaging me." "I'm not sabotaging anything. I'm just not helping anymore." She hung up. Mom called next. "Amber, we need to talk. This foundation thing, what about it? You can't just pull funding 2 days before an event. It's unprofessional." "The decision was made by the full board based on financial analysis. Very professional, actually. This is because of that group chat." "What group chat, Mom?" Silence. "You know what group chat." "Oh, you mean the one where you called me your backup daughter? The one I wasn't supposed to see?" "Amber." "The one where you said I do what I'm told like a trained dog?" "We didn't mean—" "Here's the thing, Mom. You were right. I did do what I was told. For 28 years, I bent over backward to make your lives easier. But you know what? I'm not your backup daughter anymore." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm done. With the setup. With the free labor. With pretending your cruelty is love. You're being dramatic. And you're being exactly who you've always been. The difference is, now I have a choice about whether to participate." I hung up and turned off my phone. Andrew found me on the back porch an hour later, reading a book in the fading sunlight. "How do you feel?" he asked, settling into the chair beside me. "Light," I said. "Like I've been carrying something heavy for years and finally set it down." "Any regrets?" I thought about Emily scrambling to find new funding, about Mom having to explain to her society friends why their biggest sponsor pulled out, about the gala that would probably be a disaster. "None," I said. And I meant it. Andrew booked us a weekend at a small coastal inn 3 hours away. No phones, no internet, just us and the ocean. "Perfect timing," I said, watching him pack our bags. "I don't want to be anywhere near a screen today." "Smart. Let them figure it out without you for once." We were halfway to the coast when Peyton's texts started flooding in. Andrew had kept his phone on for emergencies. "She's sending screenshots," he said, glancing at his phone at a red light. "Want me to read them?" "Hit me." Emily's Instagram story from this morning. "Sometimes life throws curveballs, but we adapt and overcome. Looking forward to sharing my research with a more intimate audience today." Intimate audience. That's code for half the people didn't show up. Peyton says the local news was there for about 20 minutes, then left when they realized it wasn't the big event they expected. I leaned back in my seat. "What else?" "Your Aunt Jordan posted a very long Facebook rant about family loyalty and young people who don't understand sacrifice. She tagged me, didn't she?" "Oh yeah, multiple times. Peyton screenshot the whole thing before you got untagged." We pulled into the inn's parking lot just as Andrew's phone buzzed with a call. Mom's contact photo filled the screen. "Don't answer it," I said. I wasn't planning to. But she called again, and again. 17 missed calls, Andrew said, showing me his phone as we checked into our room. That might be a record. She's probably realizing that without the foundation money, they're short about $30,000 for the event. Ouch. Yeah. And Emily's keynote fee was probably $5,000 of that. Our room overlooked the ocean. with French doors that opened onto a small balcony. I stood there breathing in the salt air while Andrew ordered room service. "Peyton's sending more updates," he called from inside. "I don't want to hear them." "This one you might." I came back inside. Andrew was staring at his phone with a strange expression. "What?" "Emily left the gala early, like during the cocktail hour, before her speech." "What? Why?" "Peyton doesn't know, but she got this from someone who was there." He held up his phone. It was a photo of Emily in her car, crying. Full, makeup ruining, mascara streaming tears. The caption read, "When you realize your sister isn't your safety net anymore." Who posted that? Some society blogger. It's already got 200 likes. I stared at the photo. Emily looked broken in a way I'd never seen before. For a split second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Room service is here," Andrew said, answering a knock at the door. We ate dinner on the balcony as the sun set over the water. Andrew's phone stayed face down on the table, but I could see it lighting up with notifications every few minutes. "You can check it," I said finally. "Are you sure?" "Yeah, I'm curious now." He scrolled through the messages. "Jordan sent you a voice message. It's long." "Play it." Jordan's voice came through the speaker, shaky with rage. "Amber, I don't know what's gotten into you, but what you did today was cruel. Absolutely cruel. Your sister worked for months on that presentation, and you destroyed it out of spite. Emily is devastated. She's questioning everything about her career, her relationships, her family. I hope you're happy. I hope this petty revenge was worth destroying your sister's dreams, because that's what you did today. You didn't just pull funding. You pulled the rug out from under someone who loves you, someone who's always looked up to you, even if she didn't show it perfectly. You're not the victim here anymore, Amber. You're the villain." The message ended. We sat in silence for a moment. "Wow," Andrew said finally. "She's always looked up to me?" I laughed, but it came out bitter. "That's rich. How do you feel?" I thought about it. "Nothing. I feel nothing." "That's not true." "Okay, fine. I feel free. Like I've been holding my breath for 28 years and finally exhaled." Andrew reached across the table and took my hand. "No regrets?" "None." My phone, which I'd left in the room, started ringing. The sound carried through the open doors. "That's probably them," I said. "Probably. Should I answer?" "Do you want to?" I listened to the phone ring until it stopped. Then it started again. "No," I said. "I really don't." Andrew squeezed my hand. "Then don't." The phone rang 4 more times before finally going quiet. In the silence that followed, I realized something had fundamentally shifted. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't rushing to fix someone else's crisis. I wasn't their backup daughter anymore. I wasn't their anything. And it felt incredible. The knock on our hotel room door came at 8 p.m., just as Andrew and I were settling in to watch a movie. "Room service?" Andrew asked, but we hadn't ordered anything. I looked through the peephole and my blood turned to ice. "It's them," I whispered. "All 3 of them." Andrew was beside me in an instant. "Your parents and Emily? How did they even find us?" Another knock, more insistent this time. "Amber, we know you're in there." Mom's voice carried through the door. "We need to talk." "We drove 3 hours to find you," Dad added, sounding tired. "Please just open the door." Andrew looked at me. "What do you want to do?" "I want to pretend we're not here." "Amber!" Emily's voice was raw, like she'd been crying. "Please, I'm sorry about the group chat. We're all sorry. Just talk to us." "We're not leaving until you do," Mom said. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and opened the door. They looked terrible. Mom's usually perfect hair was disheveled, Dad's shirt was wrinkled, and Emily's eyes were red and swollen. They'd clearly driven straight here from the disaster of their gala. "How did you find us?" I asked. Your credit card, Mom said, pushing past me into the room. I still have access from when you were in college. That was 10 years ago. I never removed myself. Good thing too. Andrew stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. I think you should leave. This is a family matter, Mom said, not even looking at him. I'm her family now, Andrew replied, and you're not welcome here. Andrew, please, Dad said. We just want to talk to our daughter. Your backup daughter, I asked. Or did you forget that's what you call me? Emily flinched. Amber, we were just venting. We didn't mean it. You didn't mean it when you said I was insurance in case you failed. You didn't mean it when you said I do what I'm told like a trained dog. We were frustrated, Mom said. You have to understand, Emily was under so much pressure. So you decided to bond over how worthless I am? That's not what we said. That's exactly what you said. I walked to the window, needing distance from them. For months, in detail. Emily stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. But you did mean it when you said it. I was jealous, Emily whispered. You seemed so free, doing whatever you wanted while I was stuck trying to live up to everyone's expectations. Free? I turned around. You thought I was free? Emily, I spent my entire life trying to earn a place at your table. I stayed in an abusive relationship because you all told me to work harder at it. I moved across the country to get away from the pain of being your afterthought. We didn't know, Dad started. You didn't know because you never asked. None of you ever asked about my life, my feelings, my dreams. You just assumed I'd always be there to clean up your messes. Mum's voice turned sharp. So you decided to destroy Emily's career? That's your solution? I didn't destroy anything. I stopped enabling it. The foundation funding was a business decision made by a board of directors based on impact metrics. Emily's fellowship wasn't producing results. That's not true, Emily protested. 60% of the gala money went to administrative costs and your speaking fee. 20% more to event expenses. 20% actually reached people who needed help. I looked directly at her. That's not philanthropy, Emily. That's a vanity project. You're being vindictive, Mom said. This isn't about impact metrics. This is about revenge. Maybe it is, I said. But here's the thing. I'm not sorry. The room fell silent except for Emily's quiet sobbing. Andrew moved to stand beside me. I think you should go now. This isn't over, Mom said, her voice ice cold. Yes, it is, I replied. I'm done being your backup plan. I'm done being the daughter you tolerate instead of love. I'm done pretending your cruelty is normal. They moved toward the door, but Emily stopped and turned back. He'll see the real you eventually, she said, her voice venomous despite the tears. When the honeymoon phase ends, and he realizes you're not the victim you pretend to be. When he sees how vindictive and calculating you really are, you'll have nothing. Andrew's arm tightened around my waist. My wife doesn't need to hear from people who treat love as currency. Your wife? Mom's eyebrows shot up. 2 years now, I said. Not that any of you bothered to ask. Dad looked genuinely shocked. Amber, we didn't know. Because you never cared enough to find out. They left without another word, the door closing behind them with a soft click. I stood there shaking, adrenaline coursing through my veins. You okay? Andrew asked. Yeah, I said, and realized I meant it. I'm better than okay. Emily's words don't matter. They never did. But as I said it, a small part of me wondered if she was right. If someday Andrew would see me the way they did. A month later, I was having coffee with Peyton when she showed me her phone. Look at this, she said, scrolling through LinkedIn. Emily's profile. where her bio used to list 3 upcoming speaking engagements and 2 fellowship positions, there was now just her basic job title and a generic description. The Sustainable Communications Institute dropped her, Peyton continued, and Berkeley cancelled her guest lecture series. How do you know all this? I have friends in academia. Word travels fast when someone's funding gets pulled and they can't deliver on their commitments. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw what you did to your family. Atta girl. R. I showed Peyton. Her eyes widened. Rhett, your psycho ex? Apparently he's been following the drama online. That's creepy as hell. Yeah, but also weirdly validating. Even my abusive ex-boyfriend thinks my family had it coming. Peyton laughed. That's either the best endorsement or the worst one possible. My phone rang. Carlos's name appeared on the screen. Hi, Carlos. Amber, dear. I need to give you a heads up. We received a rather interesting phone call this morning. Oh? Your aunt called the foundation directly. She was quite passionate about our funding decisions. I closed my eyes. What did she say? She accused us of being manipulated by a vindictive family member. She suggested we didn't have all the facts about the organizations we'd chosen to defund. I'm sorry. I never meant for this to affect the foundation's reputation. Amber, stop! Carlos's voice was firm but kind. Edith and I have been running this foundation for 15 years. We've seen every kind of manipulation, guilt trip, and sob story imaginable. Your aunt's call only confirmed that we made the right decision. What do you mean? She spent 20 minutes telling us how wonderful Emily is and how ungrateful you are. She never once mentioned the actual charitable work or community impact. It was all about family politics and hurt feelings. So what happens now? Now, we release a statement confirming that our funding decisions are based solely on measurable outcomes and organizational transparency, which they are. After I hung up, Peyton was staring at me with an odd expression. What? Your in-laws are amazing. They really are. And your family is still trying to manipulate the situation instead of just apologizing. That would require them to admit they were wrong. Peyton's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and frowned. Speaking of your family, Emily just posted something. She showed me the Instagram post, a black and white photo of Emily, looking pensively out a window, with a long caption about learning to navigate life's unexpected challenges and finding strength in solitude. She's really leaning into the victim narrative, Peyton said. Let her. The people who matter know the truth. Do they, though? I mean, to outsiders, it probably looks like you destroyed your sister's career over a family argument. Maybe, but I'm not living my life for outsiders anymore. That evening, Andrew found me in our home office, working on a grant proposal for a literacy program in rural Guatemala. How was your day? He asked, kissing the top of my head. Productive. Carlos says the foundation is getting some pushback about the funding changes. From your family? Jordan called them directly, tried to convince them I was manipulating the board. Andrew was quiet for a moment. How do you feel about that? Honestly, I feel nothing. A month ago, I would have been devastated that they were trying to sabotage my work. Now it just feels predictable. That's growth. Or numbness. I'm not sure there's a difference anymore. Andrew sat down across from me. Amber, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you ever worry that you've become someone you don't recognize? The question hit me like a physical blow. What do you mean? I mean, you've always been kind, empathetic, someone who puts others first. This whole situation, it's changed you. Into what? Someone who can cut people out of her life without looking back. Someone who can make decisions that destroy other people's dreams and feel nothing about it. I stared at him. Are you saying I'm becoming like them? I'm saying I want to make sure you're still you. This is me, Andrew. This is who I am when I'm not being used and manipulated and treated like garbage. I know. And I love this version of you. I love that you're strong enough to protect yourself now. I don't want you to lose your compassion in the process. My compassion! I stood up, anger flaring. Where was their compassion when they called me their backup daughter? Where was their compassion when they told me to stay with an abuser? You're right. They don't deserve your compassion. I'm just worried about what happens to you if you stop feeling it entirely. I looked at my husband, this man who'd seen me at my lowest point and loved me anyway, who'd given me a family that actually valued me, and realized he was scared. Scared that in becoming strong enough to fight back, I'd become someone who could hurt him too. I would never hurt you, I said quietly. I know that. But Emily probably thought the same thing once. The words hung between us like a challenge. Maybe he was right to be worried. Maybe I had become someone I didn't recognize. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't apologizing for taking up space, and I wasn't sure I wanted to go back. The for sale sign in front of my childhood home looked smaller than I'd expected. I parked across the street and stared at the house where I'd spent 18 years learning I wasn't enough. The garden Mom had been so proud of was overgrown. Paint was peeling from the shutters. You sure about this? Peyton asked from the passenger seat. No, but I need to see it. We'd driven here on impulse after lunch, when Peyton mentioned seeing the listing online. The asking price had been reduced twice in the past month. The realtor said they're motivated sellers, Peyton said, scrolling through her phone. Apparently there were some financial setbacks that made the mortgage payments difficult. I got out of the car and walked to the front porch. The wallpaper in the hallway still choked me, visible through the window. That hideous floral pattern Mum had insisted was classic. I pulled a small wildflower from the overgrown garden bed and placed it on the porch step. Not for them. For the little girl who'd lived here and deserved better. Ready to go? Peyton asked when I returned to the car. Yeah. My phone buzzed as we drove away. Andrew's name appeared on the screen. Hey, I answered. How did it go? Weird, sad, but also final, I guess. Good. Listen, something came in the mail for you today. Thick envelope, fancy paper. What is it? I didn't open it, but the return address says Women's Leadership Summit. When I got home, Andrew handed me the envelope with a curious expression. Inside was an invitation printed on cream cardstock, but this time, my name was at the top in elegant script. Mrs. Amber Gonzalez, I read aloud. You are cordially invited to deliver the keynote address at our annual Women's Leadership Summit. Your work with the Gonzalez Foundation and your advocacy for transparent philanthropy has made you a voice of inspiration for women navigating complex family and professional dynamics. Andrew looked over my shoulder. That's incredible. They want me to speak about finding your voice when others try to silence it. Perfect topic, I kept reading. The summit is being sponsored by... I stopped. What? The Sustainable Communications Institute, Emily's old fellowship program. Andrew frowned. The one that lost funding? They restructured after the foundation pulled out. New leadership, new focus on actual community impact instead of academic prestige. And now they want you to keynote? Apparently my principled stand for accountability in charitable giving made waves in the nonprofit world. My phone rang. Mom's contact photo filled the screen. For the first time in weeks, I answered. Hello, Mom. Amber. Her voice was different, smaller. I saw the house sold. I drove by today, I know. We're moving to a smaller place. Your father's retiring early. Okay? Silence stretched between us. I also heard about your speaking engagement, the Women's Leadership Summit. How did you… Never mind. Yes. That's wonderful, sweetheart. You always were a good speaker. The casual compliment hit me like a slap. After everything, she was still trying to rewrite history. Mom, why are you calling? I wanted to apologize, for the group chat, for not seeing you clearly. Okay. That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say? I want you to forgive us. I want you to come home. I looked around my living room, at the photos of Andrew and me traveling, at the awards from the foundation, at the life I'd built without them. This is home, I said. Amber, please. Emily's struggling. She's seeing a therapist, trying to figure out how to rebuild her career. She asks about you. Good. She should struggle. She should figure it out herself. That's cold. That's honest. Mom was quiet for a long moment. I don't know how to fix this. You can't. Some things can't be fixed, Mom. They can only be survived. So that's it? You're just done with us? I thought about the little girl who'd placed a wildflower on the porch, about the woman who'd found her voice in a boardroom, about the wife who'd learned what real love looked like. I'm not done with you, I said finally, but I'm done being your backup plan. I'm done being the daughter you settle for instead of celebrate. We do celebrate you. No, you don't. But that's okay now. I celebrate myself. After I hung up, Andrew found me on the back porch, holding the invitation. How do you feel? He asked. Light, I said, like I've been carrying something heavy for years and finally set it down. Any regrets? I thought about Emily, probably sitting in some therapist's office, finally confronting the reality that actions have consequences. About Mom and Dad, downsizing their life because the money they'd spent on appearances couldn't sustain them anymore. About Jordan, who'd probably never understand why her manipulation tactics had finally stopped working. None, I said. Andrew sat beside me, taking my hand. You know what the funny thing is? What? They spent your whole life treating you like you were disposable, like you were just there in case Emily failed. Yeah. But you were never the backup daughter. I looked at him. What do you mean? You were always the only one who mattered. They just couldn't see it. I squeezed his hand, watching the sun set over our quiet street. Tomorrow, I'd start writing my keynote speech. I'd tell a room full of women about finding your worth when the people who should love you most refuse to see it. But tonight, I just sat with my husband and felt the weight of 28 years of not being enough finally lift from my shoulders. Funny how I was always the backup, until I was the only one left standing.